That's up there now. Okay. Hello, my name is Dee. Until 7 or 8 years ago, I was a designer. I was a service designer, product designer, UX designer. I did a bit of UI as well. And I did that for about 8 years, worked as a designer. Until about 7 years ago, when I don't know how it happened exactly, but I kind of became a facilitator, which is what I'm going to talk to you about today. But when I was a designer, tell me if this story sounds familiar. When I was a designer, most of the projects that I worked on dragged on longer than expected. Me and the people that I worked with, working with developers, other designers, other people in the organization, we would try and do our tasks, do our work. I worked for agencies and internally in product companies. Sometimes there were clients giving us requirements. Sometimes it was business people in the company telling us what needed to be worked on. We'd try and get our work done. We'd have tons of meetings about it. 2 months would go by and the requirements would suddenly change. There'd be a new strategic direction, or the clients would suddenly have a new idea because they talked to their cousin about it and now they have a new direction. And projects never seemed to actually go the way that we expected. And every time we would start a new project, we would think, great, we've got a good plan, we know what needs to be done, let's go and do our designs, let's hand them over to the development team, let's build this thing. But most of the time, that's not the way it actually went. And maybe at least half the time, I would work on a project, making designs that I thought was really solving great problems that needed to be solved. And half the time, the actual product or feature or thing would never even actually get launched because the requirements would have changed, or we took so long and it was so delayed that the budget was gone. Something happened that all the work that I was doing never actually got seen and got out to the market. How many people have that as a familiar story that you've worked on? Yes, isn't it annoying? It's so incredibly frustrating that we all just keep working in these companies and we move jobs and we go to other companies that seem like they're doing more exciting things and then the same stuff still happens. This is how work can generally feel. And especially in this one project, I quit a job because I spent 9 months working on this project. It was for an airline app. It was changing, and actually a good airline app to book flights and get on your flights. A lot of people have taken flights here. You know how annoying these apps can be. And we were so proud of it, and it was so cool, and we were doing actually making great changes in the way that people experience airline apps. And 9 months went by. The clients kept changing the requirements, and we never launched the thing, and I quit the job because I was so frustrated, and I just didn't want to have to go through that again. But then, of course, I got another job, and the same thing keeps happening. So this is how I think work works in general, this kind of story. We have our tasks, our things that we're trying to design, problems that we're trying to solve, our work that we're doing on our own. We sit down at our desks and we do our work, and then we have to interact with other people. So maybe you send a Slack message to the product manager because you need their input on the work that you've just been doing. You keep on doing your own work. Send an email to the development team because you need them to review what you've been working on and give you some feedback about technical possibilities. Do some more work. Then maybe you need to talk to the customer support team. So maybe you go over and have a conversation and they're helpful, but they give you a report or they give you some new information that actually customers have been complaining about something new. So maybe that feature you're working on isn't going to be as relevant anymore. You keep on working, and all this time you're designing and trying to actually create solutions for the problems that you're working on, but you often have to wait for the next meeting to check in with your team or the project manager or other stakeholders, other people inside the company or your clients. So, okay, we keep working, hoping that we're working on the right things, hoping that we're solving the problems, that PM never got back to me, so I'll Slack them again, and days are going by, weeks often going by. Finally getting to that meeting, whether it's that regular weekly check-in where you actually can get some input and feedback on what you've been working on, or a client or stakeholder meeting where you've been working for weeks and then you show them everything that they asked for that you've now designed and solved, hoping to get the, okay, great, let's keep going with this. finally a chance to actually get people on board, get people understanding what I'm working on. Can I please make progress? Can I please get the approvals so that I can actually do my work? But what usually happens is that in that meeting, we run out of time because something else came up. The list of agenda items was too long, or just someone said something new and now we have to talk about that. And you run out of time to even get your point across. I'm seeing someone smiling and nodding. I don't know if is it about this? Because, yeah, this is how work works. And it's so infuriating. You often run out of time because other stuff came up in the meeting. And usually the result then is, oh, we'll have another meeting next week. Like, let us know next week. Or can we just give you feedback asynchronously? Can we please just let us know what we need to do, and we'll give you the feedback, we'll give you the approvals that you want, send us a document. But then you just go all the way back around to the beginning where you're just working on your own, trying to get other people that you need to work with. You need their approval, you need their input. Otherwise, all the work you're doing is just going to hit a roadblock at the end where someone says, hey, I didn't get told about this, what's happening? And this cycle just seems to keep on going round and round. It's also represented really nicely by this cartoon, which I'll give you a second to read. Yeah, I can tell by the laughs when you finished reading. This is, who's this quote by? Sartre, philosopher, I think? Someone correct me if that's not right. Hell is other people. And we all are great at what we do. And we all are doing what we do, whether it's designers. Vitaly asked right at the beginning of the day yesterday, I think most people in the room are designers. We've got some developers, some other roles as well, maybe some PMs. We all have to work with other people. Even if you're an individual contributor and you're really good at what you do and you get given a challenge to solve, a design challenge, and you can do it really well, you will definitely need other people's input on understanding the problem. Maybe it's even users, customers that you need to talk to. You definitely will need approvals. You'll definitely need to show that your work and get it actually put into something, into a marketing campaign, into a mobile app, some kind of digital tool. And there'll be people along the way that need to contribute to that. The developers that need to build it, for example. People are always involved in what we do. So the way I see the biggest productivity traps for us, all of us, in the way that we work, is that we can optimize, and we do optimize our own solo productivity as much as possible. We upgrade our tools, we do courses to learn new ways of working so that we can work better and more effectively and faster. So we're pretty good at optimizing our own individual productivity when we're just working alone. But what about our productivity when we have to interact and collaborate with other people? Even if it's just getting aligned on the project or doing that convincing design pitch so that you can actually get the approval on what you're working on, the ideas that you have. We really aren't great at optimizing our collaboration productivity. And that's where I see the most time and the least productivity happening. The most productivity traps are in those things where we need to collaborate with other people. It's sometimes just waiting for the next meeting where you can show your work and get feedback or get direction from your team lead. Just waiting a week for the meeting is a week that you've lost. Even just waiting that time is something that I see as a productivity trap. What if we didn't have to wait days and weeks just to take the next step to progress with our work? I believe collaboration is broken, and we're all just used to those ways of working, that image of like, okay, we have to wait, do some work, wait, ask another person, they don't reply, wait for the meeting, show my work, oh, the meeting ran out of time, I have to wait for the next meeting. We all laughed and nodded and smiled. That's what happens. And for some reason, we're all just okay with it. We all just do it and accept it, and it frustrates us, but we just think that's the way it works, so what am I going to do about it? I'm going to tell you what you're going to do about it. I believe collaboration is broken, and facilitation skills, facilitation is the cure for broken collaboration. I want to tell you my first facilitation story. It's not honestly really my first story about when I discovered facilitation, but it is the big one that really changed the direction of my career and my work. This the big story that really helped me see that facilitation could really change the way that I design, the way that I work as a designer. So this is me 9 years ago. I'd just been hired at a company in my first lead role. It's an online education company. You can kind of see the logo on my laptop there. It's not GitHub. I think I was just trying to be a really cool, nerdy designer, and I'd probably just been to a GitHub conference and I had all this GitHub stuff. But I'd just been hired by this online education company as the lead, the most senior UX designer. That was my first time being the person who decided how to do the UX stuff instead of being the person who got given the UX tasks to do. So I was really excited. I got hired in this new role. I was kind of in charge of UX-y things, and I'd been given this big general assignment in this company. I think there was about 35 people in the company at that time. Online education platform. It was teaching UX design, teaching coding. It teaches lots of other things now. So there's online students, people who take the courses and study online, and they had tutors and mentors, so other people who would teach and mentor through the classes. There was obviously the online platform that people would log into and use and learn with. And the big assignment that I was given was basically, Dee, thank you so much for joining us. We've got lots of UX-y things that we need done, but we don't really know what order to do them in. We're just really reacting to things right now. We have customer support, so when people complain and tell us there's a problem, we just go, okay, we better fix that. How do we make little UX fixes? They didn't really have a lot of structure and planning and a vision of how they could continually improve UX across the platform and across the experience of the actual humans, people, students and mentors and tutors working together, interacting together. So this big assignment was basically, could you help guide us with where and how to attack and approach the UX across our whole system? We hear customer support hears complaints. The people are actually writing the courses, the curriculum designers need to know kind of how to improve the course. There's also the actual student support and the mentor support, so the support people that talk to the humans, and they hear complaints as well, and that's not really a digital platform. That's like, how can we improve the humans' experience? And all of these people are just kind of reacting to things, and the company was going well, but could you fix our UX system overall so that we know what to work on when? I was like, okay. I was just a mid-level UX designer before, but now I'm in charge, so I'm going to figure that out. I didn't really know exactly where to start, or I had some ideas, like, okay, well, I'll go talk to the support people and just talk to them about what they hear, what the problems are. I'll go talk to the curriculum design team because they're designing the curriculum of the courses, and I'll ask them what their problems are with the way they see it. Basically set up all these one-on-ones. There was also the marketing and sales people, and their work was affected by basically the design of the whole system, the online system and the human system. And they would have to sell and market the features of the course, and if there were problems or the features weren't there, or another course, one of our competitors had a different way of doing their course and we didn't have good enough features, then it would be harder for the salespeople to sell our course. So all of these different teams and people were really affected by how our product worked, how these online courses worked. So I was thinking, great, I'll go set up one-on-one meetings with all of these different teams and people. I'll find out all this information. Then I'll go back to my desk and think about what that information all means, try and categorize, create some structure of understanding this whole system and what all the problems are. So one-on-one meetings, probably a lot of solo work, just trying to visualize this whole system, probably go back and do some more one-on-one meetings and get some more feedback and input from across all of the different facets of this whole product and organization. Whew, that's going to be a big job. I've just been hired. That's going to be a big job. I can imagine that being at least some weeks of arranging the meetings, having the meetings, like doing some work, having some thinking time, visualizing it all somehow, going back to the people, coming up with this plan of how should we approach UX, how should we plan and strategize our UX improvements a little better. Okay, so I was thinking, right, I could do that, but I'd seen workshops before. The last companies I worked at, we ran client workshops to get alignment with clients and things like that. I've been talking to a few people who've done things like that. Who's been in a workshop before? Everyone, probably, yeah. Who has actually facilitated a workshop before, uses that in their work? Yeah, okay, there's maybe like a third of the people. Okay, I'm excited about what's coming next. I'd seen these before. I had tried out doing a few simple things, but I had never really been like, okay, I'm going to make a workshop for us to solve this problem. So I thought, maybe I could do that. Instead of all of these one-on-one meetings and solo work and coming back and forth and waiting for people to be available, how about I get all those people in a room? So I got those people in a room. It's a small company, 35 people. I got one person from each of these teams that were really involved and affected by these changes things that I was going to be trying to figure out. So I brought in a person from customer support, a person from the sales and marketing team, a person from that curriculum design team, and then we've got some designers here, UI designer, another UX designer, and the junior UX designer who'd also just been hired, just because that's a great thing for them to participate in. So this group of 6 of us, 7 including me, just in a room for 2 hours, got the post-it notes out, and asked them all the same questions that I would have asked them if I had done these one-on-one meetings, calls with each one of them. Asked them the same questions, but with some structure. So, okay, let's all together, what you see us doing here is let's all together just list out and get up the categories of the areas of the things that we might need to think about, where UX-y changes might need to happen. So, okay, well, in the curriculum design, the design of the actual course and how it's taught. Then there's the online platform where it lives. That's kind of, the curriculum is in there, but that's kind of separate online platform. Then there's there's chat support and there's phone support, so people can call. That's a whole other thing as well. That's an area. So really just understanding the system. And this is 9 years ago, so I don't remember exactly, but probably about 20 minutes, we're just mapping out where are all the places that things need to happen and improvements can be made and problems can happen. And then in the second half of this workshop that I ran, we took those areas and said, okay, what are the biggest problems happening in the curriculum at the moment? Whether it's problems in the curriculum or problems in the way that we construct the curriculum, problems in the digital platform. And all of these people had worked at the company for a while and they knew and they were frustrated by all these things. So all it took was for them to write down, oh yeah, the submit button sometimes doesn't work properly. Right, write that down. We've got it. We just could list out all the things that were at the top of people's minds that were the biggest problems and get them up on the wall. So on the right side there, you see that's where we just started listing what are the biggest problems and then also how could we start improving them. And then you see there as well the founders. I didn't ask all my old colleagues for permission because I was making my slides last night still. So you can't see their faces, but look how amazed and happy they look. The 2 founders of the company, that same afternoon was like, hey, look, you tasked me with this big assignment of figuring out how to organize and systematize the way we approach improving UX across our whole product. We just did it. Do you want to come and have a look? And they came in and had a look and could see the main areas that needed focus, the biggest problems that needed to be worked on, and some ideas already from those people who are already working on those things, ideas of how to fix them. So this is probably not a shock to you all. That's how workshops work. You have a certain thing that you want to achieve, and you get people to try and reach that outcome. So I had this problem that I was tasked with. Can you help us systematize and structure the way we approach our UX across the whole product? And at the end of the workshop, I had a list up on the wall, voted on and prioritized of what are the biggest problems and what are the ways we can solve them. And this, to some people, really might seem like somehow magic rocket science. To people who've experienced this before, it's amazing. But when I think about that story of working on a project for 9 months and it never actually getting launched, this airline app, this new thing that we were working on, never actually getting launched, it all comes down to the people that are working on it. It was their clients were involved as well, and they kept changing their minds. I was in the design team and then the development team. We were all working and never actually connecting together to say, yep, we agree, these are the things we should be working on. We agree, these are the features that we want. We agree, this is the product that we really want built. We were all working and then asynchronously kind of disagreeing, redoing things, trying again, and never getting in the room at the same time to just say, yes, we're all here agreeing that these are the things that we should be working on. It's quite magic that in 2 hours, without having solved it completely, of course, but in 2 hours, I answered something that I originally thought might take me at least weeks to solve. And of course, from that list that you see, we still need to go and do some more research about certain topics. We actually need to make a plan for how we're going to implement some of these new UX fixes and ideas. We might need to talk to some more people and really find out more about the problem. But we already had that list of what are the problems and how might we solve them, and done all of that work of really arranging and understanding the information, where I could have tried to do it all by myself. With individual one-on-one meetings and then trying to make that plan myself, probably showing it back to people and having them say, no, that's not quite it actually, but instead we all did it together. This is what I mean by facilitation. This slide is going to have the definition, the dictionary definition of the word facilitation on it. Does anyone actually know what it is, where the root word comes from, to facilitate? Yeah, to make easy. And if you didn't know that, it's like obvious, right? Yeah. If you just think about any general kind of facilitation, it's helping people do it, helping make it easier, make it actually happen. I love this definition. I'm going to tweak this definition a few times in the rest of the presentation. But I love it. That's exactly how I see facilitation. When I think about that job, that role that I had, and that big task that I was given, you've just started at this company, figure out all of our UX, please. And then I found this one way to bring people together to make it really easy, at least to make it really easy to get started and know what direction to go in. I did my work faster and more effectively. Other teams, all those other people in their different teams, saved time and pain for themselves because they also were involved in that UX work. They were involved and affected by the UX work that I and my team was going to be doing. The customer support people were supporting customers all the time, hearing the same complaints, hearing the same issues, and the fact that they were in the room to decide what are the biggest issues that we should solve meant that when we solved those customer problems, the customer support people would have less pain, less people complaining about the same things that they'd been hearing over and over again. The curriculum designers knew how to design their curriculum because we will have solved some problems that will help them do their work better. And how do you think all of those people felt? If you can still read this, sales, marketing, curriculum, customer support. and the designers, how do you think those people felt being brought into that design process? Shout out some words, yeah. Heard? Valued? It's the first one, valued. A couple of others? Involved. Oh, included, okay, it's close. Empowered, I haven't got empowered on there, but yes, exactly. Valued, included. Insightful, as in they have insights, they have frustrations, they've been hearing the same things, like dealing with the same problems, and no one was listening, basically heard. They felt that their insights were valuable, and their insights were actually going to be useful, that they had influence in how the company and the product progressed. They feel then more invested in their own work and in the company and in the product because they have been part of making the changes and saying this is what we should be working on. And less time, having to spend less time, we all know that feeling as well, I think, dealing with other people's ideas. Other people go away and decide that these are the ideas that we should do, and then we get given the work as designers to make it. Or the customer support people as well. Someone decided to put this feature in the app, now I have to deal with it all the time on customer support. Less time dealing with that feeling because they've been included and involved in the process of what is actually going to happen. So if I'm going to tweak already this definition, this is now not from the dictionary, to make easy is really the meaning of the word to facilitation, to facilitate. My D definition is, the tweak on it is to make collaboration easy and effective. Not just making something easy, but let's make collaboration easy. It's not really facilitation if it's just you. Facilitation is about bringing other people together to work on something together, and facilitation makes that easy and effective. I'd like to just clarify, some people might be wondering, is there a difference between facilitation and a workshop? What's the difference between facilitating and a workshop, or how are they related? A workshop is basically that package of activities, the set of steps or activities that you package together to say, here's a workshop for making decisions. The one on the left is the Lightning Decision Jam by AJ and Smart, which is the last company that I worked for. And you can do that in 2 hours. It's got 3, 4, 5 steps, activities that take you from working on some fuzzy problem to clear, simple decision at the end. So you can do that in a meeting. You can do it in 45 minutes, actually, the quick version. There's the design sprint, which I do a lot of, which is 5 days of structured activities, step by step, one after the other, for innovation product problems mostly. And the one on the bottom is just a screenshot of some slides that I made recently to teach service design to a government agency. And I created a structured set of activities, one step after the other, with the purpose and goal of teaching hands-on service design principles to a government team in Berlin. So the workshop is the package of activities, and facilitation is the skill of guiding people through that, guiding collaboration. And the word guide is used a lot because it really is guiding, not really instructing or telling or making people do something, but guiding people through something that they actually need to do anyway. They could do tons of one-on-one meetings and do a lot of work on your own, or you can guide people through a faster, more effective way to do it together. This is me, obviously, doing these kinds of bigger workshops where I've got big teams of people and I've created my set of activities, I've got my workshop plan, and I'm guiding them through it. But you don't have to do big workshops, and that's kind of my point, my takeaway for you all today. Most people here have experienced or actually facilitate workshops. That is one thing. I love it. That's basically my business now, my work now. These bigger workshops really plan to solve a particular purpose, to do our design work, for example, to solve something, a usually big challenge. But you can use that art and skill of facilitation without having to do these huge workshops, without it having to be a big thing. For example, a couple of shots also, my colleagues that I haven't asked their permission, you can just use those same skills, especially if you already facilitate, you already run workshops, use those same skills every day. Anytime there's something that you think, oh, how am I going to get this done? Probably that's a good trigger to think, could I actually do a little facilitation here? Whether it's literally just grabbing 2 colleagues that you think could help you. Could be 2 other designers that you work with, or developers that you know that they're going to be building what you're designing. Maybe I just grab this developer and grab this copywriter, and we get in a room and just quickly make a little progress together, so I then know to go back to my desk and work on something that's going to actually be effective because I've got the input from these 2 people. Could do something in 30 minutes just by grabbing people and getting their input. Oh, I wanted to talk about these other ones. You can be in a meeting. This is my favorite, really easiest thing to do. I'll ask you in a second to raise your hands if you already do this. I'll be so happy if there's lots of hands. But I shouldn't have said that, because don't put your hands up if you don't actually do it. If you're in a meeting already, someone else's agenda, someone else's meeting, and you know it's going to hit that, oh, we're just going to bring up another topic and another topic and another topic, and we're going to run out of time without even talking about the thing that I need to work on. You can be in a meeting and stop a rambling discussion from going off track just by saying, could we please note this down and put a 5-minute timer on? Everyone can then note down their input and their ideas instead of having the discussion that just goes on as long as it takes that person to stop talking. Stop that rambling discussion just by putting some structure to it, putting some timing, taking some notes, and basically systematizing that discussion. And using what I think is commonly called note and vote. If you're talking with people about ideas or problems or anything, just grabbing the stack of Post-it notes and saying, could we just list all of these things down and put some votes on them, just so we can take all of these tasks or ideas or things from a big list of all the stuff to, let's start with this one. And then these next 3 are the next top priorities. These other ones can probably be done later. And you suddenly have some clarity in a 5-minute activity. Some other examples. Design review meetings. Oh, wait, I didn't ask you the question. In a meeting, you're in a meeting, someone else's meeting, the discussion is rambling, how many people have actually done this and said, excuse me, could we please time box this and note down our input separately so that we can just collect it all and have it done within a time box? Who's stopped a meeting to do that, or done it in the meeting? Okay, good. There's quite a few hands, but this is maybe the biggest thing that I would suggest for anyone who's like, oh, yeah, facilitation, I do it, but it's complicated and takes a lot of planning. If you don't take anything else away from my talk, do that. Do that in your next meeting, and every meeting will actually achieve the outcome that it was intended to. Some other examples. Design review sessions, meetings can be done with a little facilitation rather than unstructured discussion. Doing things like just mocking up UX, UI ideas can be done in a facilitated way, which without it being you that sits alone for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and then shows someone and then feedback and redo. Get it up on a whiteboard, bring a couple of colleagues in, you'll be done in an hour and you'll have the direction because you will have decided together how it should progress. Planning poker is a great one. I wanted to throw some really different examples up here. If anyone's used this, I guess it's an agile Scrum game for estimation of things, basically to help prioritize a backlog of tasks, features, user stories. These things are all examples of stuff that you can do, but you might be thinking, yeah, I already do those things, but why are you now calling this facilitation? These things aren't by themselves facilitation, but if you use facilitation to do them, you make sure that you achieve the outcome in an easier and more effective way. So basically, beware that if you do any of your work, those kinds of things, or any of your work with unfacilitated collaboration, these are the things that can happen. Discussions break out and go round in circles and ramble on and on. Sometimes one person dominates the conversation and all their ideas, you're just kind of waiting for the meeting to end so that you can go back and actually do the work, and they dominate the conversation and derail things. The quieter people don't get heard because they're just waiting for a chance to speak, and they don't get the feeling that their voice is welcome. Things go off track. There's too many ideas and no decision. And you run out of time before you actually achieve the goal that you intended. And on and on and on. These are the problems that happen. Yes? Is this? Yes, yes. Thank you. One person put their hand up. And this is a list. I brought this in from another talk I gave that I won't go through each one. But these are, as judged by research that Asana did, project task management software, project management software. These are the top reasons that businesses report that the top reasons for projects failing. Not having a decision maker. If you facilitate something, you can assign a decision maker. Lack of transparency. If everyone's in the room and all the information is on the wall visible, you have transparency by default. Getting buy-ins and approvals. Again, people in the room being informed of what's going on. Too many meetings. Most people think that workshops kind of add more meetings, but actually they add less. Think of all the one-on-one meetings that I would have had to have with those different people and probably come back to them and have another one-on-one meeting to follow up. But instead, I just had 1 2-hour session with all of them together. Scope creep we know about. Time, delays, deadlines, other projects creeping in and taking over. And lack of alignment. That's maybe the biggest one that facilitation helps with because everyone is there agreeing and deciding together. So all of these top reasons for project failure are the exact things that facilitation solves. So if I would tweak this definition a little bit again, this is what I had before. To make collaboration easy and effective, I might tweak that one more time to just say facilitation is to guide easy and effective collaboration. This is my final definition of what it is to facilitate. Core principles, in case you're still wondering, like, okay, but when you say facilitate the meeting, facilitate the product backlog, facilitate this, what does it actually mean? There are 4 core principles that must be there for it to actually be a facilitated activity. The first one is that the discussion needs to be sequenced, not rambling, untimed, discuss. And you can do this in different ways, but usually putting a time box on, allocating time to the topic or allocating time for each person to speak, to stay focused and relevant and keep moving along instead of that meeting running out of time. The second one is working together alone, which was made popular, that concept, by the design sprint. Working together alone means that we're all together working towards the same thing, but there are specific activities where you just get to think about your ideas, the problems that you see. You get to have some time to focus and write down your input and then share it back with the group. Together, alone, working time, where all the voices can be heard. All the ideas are heard equally as well because they're all written down and presented back rather than the person who's really good at pitching and presenting getting heard the most. And you can do anonymous, when you do something that's anonymous where all the input just gets collected together and you don't know whose ideas are whose, then that really creates psychological safety within the team, which means people feel safe to share their ideas because they're not going to be judged, because no one will know that it's their idea. The third one is visualizing the information, putting things up so all the information, all the input that we're collecting together is seen by everyone. People don't leave with different interpretations then of what was discussed because it was all clear and visual for everyone to see, usually on the walls or on the Miro board. Number 4 is to make sure you actually reach an outcome or a decision. These are people taking pictures. I'll put the last thing up. Reach an outcome or a decision. And what happens when we have unstructured meetings where we just have a list of things to talk about, and you probably come saying, I would really like a decision on my work, please. Doesn't actually happen because no one's structured the steps clearly to make sure that that decision gets reached or that outcome gets reached. I was going to tell a story here, but I won't because I see the time running out. This is my last big point. I love this phrase, I think it's also a quote from someone, or like the concept comes from a particular person. Structure equals freedom. Those 4 principles of facilitation are all about structure. And when we think about structure, we think about rules, and we think maybe that's not free. Someone's telling us exactly how we're supposed to do our work. But think about a music festival. Who loves music festivals? I love music festivals. I feel so completely free. I just can forget the world. Usually the phones don't work, and it's just amazing. But when you think about it, there's tons of rules at music festivals, for example. You have to put your tent in these places. There's a complete structured agenda. You can't just listen to whatever music you want at whatever time. These people are playing at this time. This is happening at this time. You can only eat this food that we've brought for you. You can't access other food. You can't usually just walk down the road and get something else. There's basically fewer options and lots of rules, but somehow we all feel really free when we're at a music festival. And this is basically the same thing applies to workshops. Structure equals freedom. Structure enables those equal voices to be heard because you've created a structure so that everyone follows the same format for their input, and so everyone's voices are heard equally. Creates that psychological safety, that free environment where I can put anything on the table because the structure allows me to not be judged for it. There's more creativity, not less, when you provide these boundaries and structures. There's measurable output. There's faster progress, which is maybe the biggest point that I'm making today. And this structure that enables freedom also avoids that rambling discussion, endless ideas, the loudest person hogging all the time, introverts not being heard, and lack of decisions and actual progress. Facilitation isn't just about running design workshops, client workshops. It's about becoming that person who can magically solve any problem and drive success for your own work and in your teams. I like to think of facilitators as the Gandalf of the business world, of the creativity world. We're the people who facilitate. You don't have to be a facilitator as your main job like I am now. But just using facilitation lets you be that person who everyone wants on their team, because whenever someone works with you, things just magically happen and are successful. And it's not, you can do it in a way that people don't even know how you're doing it, but it's facilitation. This is a quick list as well from IDEO and Forbes. I combined these, the skills of the top creative leaders of 2024. I think this list was from about 6 months ago. Setting a culture of creativity and collaboration, creating psychological safety, cultivating trust and transparency, encouraging diversity of perspectives, navigating ambiguity, maintaining momentum, and turning uncertain conditions into growth opportunities. This is what IDEO and Forbes, design and business legends, say are the must-have skills for creative leaders, and every single one of these is what facilitation lets you do and empowers you to do for your teams. Last couple of slides now. This is now me. The work that I do is really facilitation. I did it by accident. I was a UX designer that used facilitation to do my work better, and it's turned into me actually just having my main job of guiding companies and teams through difficult collaboration, making it feel easy and effective. I also just launched this online course teaching facilitation. If you're interested in that, I'll give you like 3 seconds to take a picture, do the thing. Okay. See the phones. Thank you. And I want to leave you with very simple things you can do tomorrow or next week. You'll probably be back with your teams next week. You can do these big workshops, and there's all these workshop tools, methods, formats, frameworks, these sets of activities. But what you can do next week is just rescue one meeting with a note and vote exercise and stop that rambling discussion. Or sequence and time box one discussion, even if it's not in a meeting. If you're having a discussion and lots of people are contributing ideas and it kind of just keeps going broader and broader and further, try time boxing and sequencing that discussion so that you get more input and you get more out of it. Or look through your work that you've got on right now, what you're working on, and find one thing, one feature you're developing, one task you're working on that you could do faster and more effectively by bringing a couple of people in with you, maybe in a room for 20 minutes, saving you a week of time. These are the things that I suggest to apply that skill of facilitation without it having to be a huge workshop, but apply that skill of facilitation to your everyday work and save yourself tons of time. Dank je wel. Is that the right way to say it? Thank you.
Thank you.
I went really over time, Vitaly. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry. Thank you so much, Dee. We have a lot of questions. I mean, I cannot emphasize just how many questions we have there.
I know I've gone over time, but there's one thing that I really want to show people. So maybe if we can leave 1 minute at the end. Thank you.
Of course.
It's the next, Okay.
Right, excellent. So, like, a lot of questions. Now, first of all, I think you hit so many really important points. Now, first of all, there is, I mean, I have like a list of all the things, because I think that very often we have this thinking that meetings are often repetitive and we don't need so many meetings, and meetings are, you know, they're not really contributing in any way to success. But I think that in many ways what's forgotten, that sometimes meetings are a very good idea. Like a really, really good idea, because you could have an endless conversation on Slack or on emails.
Right.
And then you could just jump on a call or just meet somebody for maybe 10 minutes and just really discuss it.
Yeah.
I think that's actually quite remarkable.
Yeah, it's the meetings that aren't planned and structured and guided that you end up being like, what am I doing here? I need to do work, rather than the meetings that actually get work done. Yeah.
I think one of the questions, though, that came up, so if you want to facilitate, who does that actually? Would you say that this must be a UX lead? Is it any designer, or who would be the Gandalf?
Yeah, I think designers, and definitely not everyone, but I think designers do have a bit of a draw naturally to want to help people be creative together. So I think I've seen that a lot. Designers saying like, yeah, I'm going to run the workshop, I'm going to do the thing. It can be absolutely anyone. It could be a leader, like project manager or team lead or something like that, who wants to help the team work more effectively together. But it could absolutely be the new intern. I don't see there being a need for a particular role to own the skill of facilitation in a company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was also a question that is now gone for some reason, I think. Oh no, here we go. Here it goes. In our teams, we have a few stakeholders and managers with very strong opinions and presence. And very often, younger designers don't feel like they should be contributing, as senior voices are very loud and very strong. How would you recommend to change the group dynamics in such cases?
Yeah, I almost was going to use the same thing that Gemma, like draw some stuff. Definitely no time now. We're all waiting to go to lunch. There are so many ways. I could have done a whole other talk about just creating psychological safety using facilitation and all the different methods you can use. I don't know if this person has seen workshops being run or run them, but there are formats in workshops that basically embed the anonymity. Anonymity creates psychological safety. Was there a particular like challenge? Just that new people don't feel like speaking, don't feel like they can speak up.
People who happen to be not necessarily on a senior level don't feel comfortable to speak up, as senior voices or senior managers are maybe dominating the conversation.
Yeah. So I would create a structured session to do whatever it is that they're maybe trying to do. Like, hey, let's have a team check-in and see whatever the topic is. Create that structured session. Have activities in there that use that together alone system of we're all here together, but right now I'm going to put the timer on for 5 minutes and just write on sticky notes what you think needs to be improved, whatever the topic is. What do you think we should do? I think we should do this. I think we should do that. I think this is a big problem. Everyone writes them down. And then if you want to keep it really anonymous, the facilitator can then collect and just stick everything up on the wall, or you can use a Miro board now with the anonymous features. And basically just create that structure so that everyone has to have their voice down. It's like your time now is to write, get your voice heard. We're going to see everything up on the wall together. and we don't know who the leaders are, and we don't know who the juniors are.
Yeah.
There's literally one exercise with post-it notes solves that problem. But I often design workshops specifically in a way that because teams have things like this. Yeah.
I also think that very often we get a little bit defensive, not showing the early mock-ups or unfinished mock-ups to stakeholders or to managers or even to colleagues. And I think the best thing that I've learned to do over this, I don't know, last 10, 15 years is whenever you are not ready, this is the best time to get feedback and actually show it to anyone.
Yeah.
So one thing, like if I just may share, the one thing that we started doing to keep everybody informed in one way or the other about what's going on, but not only just posting a Slack message or something, because that usually gets either dismissed or forgotten, overlooked or scrolled over, but instead we record really short videos every week, like
Loom?
3-4 minutes,
Loom?
3-4 minutes videos, showing the progress that we've been doing and making, and inviting feedback, but in a very structured way. Not asking, what do you think? Because it's never going to bring you anything good. But do you feel like this is going in the right direction or so? It's really rough.
Yeah.
It's sketchy, it's low fidelity sometimes and all. But inviting, again, early feedback, like you were saying, from customer service people, from marketing people, they are nice people. I mean, believe it or not, like there are all the people around in the organization. They're really constructive and helpful people if they feel involved and valued, like we do. It's the same story. If we feel involved and valued in engineering conversations, that also creates a much better dynamic there as well, right? There is maybe one more question, then we, I think, really running out of time. It was more like I had to express it because it was, Job is wondering, how do you deal with people or assist or help people who give very little input or show very minimal interaction in a workshop?
Yep. This is a big topic that's also I talk about in my course. There's lots of different things here. There's neurodivergence, different people, different brains. And I've done a lot of research into that, basically coming to the conclusion that, people are different, different brains. Some people, there's a lot of stuff about neurotransmitters. I was talking to someone yesterday about this. Neurotransmitters, some people are more sensitive or more responsive to dopamine. Other people are more responsive, sensitive to other things. Some people are dopamine overload happens really quickly and they shut down and they look like they're not engaged. But there's other neurotransmitters that work on a much slower, longer neural pathway. That means that people can be sitting there looking completely disengaged, but inside they're like, I've got some really good ideas coming here. And then if you create the right set of activities for the people who are like, ideas, to let them do that, and the other activities merged in with each other for the people whose brains are going deep and slow and that one big idea is slowly coming out, create activities to give them a 20-minute time block, for example, to map out their idea. And the other people, like, write me 10 post-it notes of all the ideas. That you can really basically meet people where they are at already with the way that they engage already. So give people those structured activities to bring out engagement without forcing people to change the way that their brains actually work and their nervous systems actually work. Yeah. But give them the structure and give them the support too.
Right. I think also in many ways, just as we're wrapping up, I think we often think that if we, let's say, do good design work, then eventually just gets through and everybody notices and kind of gets all the attention. In a way, we also feel like if we just get together in a room and we just, go through a couple of exercises and we come up with the right ideas and we all prioritize them and we're all done. But then I really feel like what you were basically saying, having this middle person somewhere guiding the conversation, time boxing the conversation, even if it's just assigning a role to maybe a person who wants to be facilitating in some way, that is really worth trying.
Yeah, there's so many things I didn't go into, but assigning different roles to people, all the different methods you can use. You could use 10 different methods to achieve the same thing, but choosing the right one that's right for that team and that purpose. Yeah, assigning roles is a really big one, and having people with different decision-making power that lets everyone still have their voice in the conversation, but the decision still gets made and the progress actually happens, and it doesn't have to be all completely democratic and by consensus, but so many things.
Well, if you have more questions all around facilitation or anything else really, you can find Dee in the Smashing Membership on the second floor. This time it would be now, so if you are hungry, of course, feel free to go and eat. That's an important thing to have. But if you have questions and you would like to ask them, please go right after, during the break, to the membership stand, and you can ask questions for Dee. Also, thank you so much, Dee, of course.
Thanks, Italy.